What's good, guys? This is Kid Achilles, and we are back today with part 2 of the Jason myths. Last time we left off, the Argonauts had just set off from Colchis and were on their way to Lemnos. So, about a year before the Argonauts land in Lemnos, there is drama. You see, the Lemnian men were quarreling with the Lemnian women because they complained that they stank. So, the Lemnian men's solution to this was to go and get concubines from Thrace that they'd conquered in different raids and stuff, and to have them, over their wives. And so, as revenge for this impressively dickish move, the Lemnian women kill all of the men on Lemnos, all except for one. The man that's spared is the ruler, Thoas, and Thoas is spared secretly by his daughter, Hypsipyle. How Hypsipyle saves Thoas is by putting him into a boat with no oars and just kind of casting him adrift into the sea. Now this still really sucks, but I guess it's better than getting ganked. So when the Argo first arrives at Lemnos, the Lemnian women think that it is shipped from Thrace, because like we said, the men of Lemnos have been raiding the shit out of Thrace. And so all of the women don the armor of their dead husbands and they rush out to, defend against this perceived attack. But an Argonaut by the name of Echion, who is a demigod son of Hermes, he acts as Jason's herald and he steps off of the Argo. And, he is able to talk to all of the Lemnian women, kind of cool everyone's heads about everything. But he does this so well that Hypsipyle then holds a council where she decides to send food and wine to the Argonauts as gift, but she does not agree to let them into the city of Myrine. Now, she doesn't want to let them into the city of Myrine because she is still super sketched out. She is expecting at any time for someone to come and punish them for what they did to all the men on Lemnos. But then a woman by the name of Polyxo, who is Hypsipyle's nurse from birth, she comes and pleads with her, and basically she says, listen, there are no men here to protect the island, and we don't even really have any children who can carry on after us once we're dead. So instead of keeping these men out, why don't we let them in? So everyone thinks that Polyxo's idea is absolutely genius. And then the Argonauts are admitted into Myrine. But of course, Hypsipyle doesn't tell them about the whole, we murdered all our husbands thing. But she does offer Jason the vacant throne to Myrine, which he, for some reason, is all too happy to accept. Now, Jason has had it pretty easy so far on this voyage. He helps an old lady across a muddy river and gets divine favor. A magic ship is hand-built and just given to him. And when he asks for help, the best heroes from all across Greece answer the call and come to his assistance. And now all he does is show up to this island and it's like, hey, would you like to be king? But anyway, Hypsipyle convinces the Argonauts to postpone their departure, which they're all too happy to do because there are literally numerous women just, hurling themselves at them. So just about everyone finds a bed. Jason is entertained by Hypsipyle herself, and 9 months later from this union are born twins named Eunaeus and Thoas the Younger. Eunaeus grows up to become the ruler of Lemnos, and he's actually the one that provides the Greeks with wine during the Trojan War. So our guys aren't off to a great start here. We are barely out of the gate and already waylaid by some ass. But thankfully, our boy Heracles stayed back at the ship to guard it. Without him, this mission would probably have stopped dead in its tracks. So Heracles is back at the Argo, and he is wondering what the fuck could be taking so long. So he gets his club, and he marches into Myrine, and he is banging on doors, and he manages to, get all his crewmates together and get them back on the ship. So the Argonauts set out that night. So they sail on away from Lemnos, and they are hugging the coast of Thrace until they come to a place called Arcdon, which is ruled by a man named Cyzicus. Now, Cyzicus literally has just gotten married to a woman by the name of Clite. So the Argonauts show up and they are invited to the wedding banquet. So the banquet's going on, everyone's having a great time. But while they're there, the guys that are left behind to guard the ship get attacked by earthborn men that have 6 arms. but thankfully they're able to, beat them back. So, they have a great time and they tell, Cyzicus, thanks for the hospitality, see you later. They set off. Now, while they're sailing, they get hit by a northeasterly wind that effectively keeps them like still in the water. They aren't making much progress no matter like how hard they like try and press on. And it's like getting pretty dark by this time. They decide to just go ahead and beach the Argo where they can until they're able to get a more favorable wind. So the Argo makes land and, it is pitch dark now. They cannot see anything. But when they make land, they're attacked by warriors. And these warriors are like pretty good. But, the Argonauts are able to win out over them, forcing many of them to flee. And, unfortunately, they do have to kill some of them. So as it gets a little bit lighter outside, Jason is looking around and he recognizes the coast. You see, they'd unknowingly come back to Arcton in the middle of the night when they couldn't see. And when they got there, King Cyzicus mistook them for pirates. Jason looks down, and lying dead at his feet is his new friend, King Cyzicus. Clete hears the news and is driven mad by it and hangs herself. Then they hold funeral games for that guy and they move on. So that was a major bummer. The Argonauts are rowing on. Heracles kind of looks around and sees that everyone is just like super sullen, and so he proposes a contest. He wants to see who can row the longest out of all the heroes on the ship. So the contest starts, and they are going for hours and hours. And the only thing that's really keeping anyone going is Orpheus, playing his lyre, a good old bardic inspiration. And so we're getting to the thick of it, and the only rowers that are left are Jason, Castor, Pollux, and Heracles. Pretty soon Castor and Pollux tap out. They can't take it anymore. So Heracles and Jason are going at it. Jason starts to feel a little woozy, and pretty soon he passes out. Immediately after he passes out, Heracles' oar snaps. He's the victor, but he is furious now. So they beach the Argo by a riverside, and Heracles goes off into the forest to, find a new oak to fashion himself another oar. Now, on this expedition, Heracles has bought his companion Ilus. Now, Heracles and Ilus aren't just buddies, they're in love. While Herc is out trying to find himself another tree to make a new oar, Ilus decides to go out and, kind of replenish the water stores while they have a chance. So a few hours go by and Heracles comes back and, Ilus isn't with the ship anymore, and so he goes out to look for him. While he's out looking for him, Heracles encounters another Argonaut who is also out looking for Ilus because he's been gone so long, by the name of Polyphemus. And so together, they are both looking for Ilus without much luck, and Heracles is getting a little panicked. Any nearby citizen that they find, Heracles demands that they help them look for Ilus. But, they unfortunately aren't able to find them. And the next day, a favorable wind starts to blow. And so Jason decides that they have to sail on without Heracles and Polyphemus. So what actually happens to Ilus is that while he's, trying to get more water, there are a couple of water nymphs that see him, from the pond where he's getting the water from. And they fall in love with him and, convince him to come live with them beneath the surface. I have always taken this to mean that they drowned him, but I feel like maybe it's kind of up to interpretation. But anyway, the crew of the Argo is, they're pissed about this. They don't want to leave Heracles behind. And, they even try and get Typhus to turn the ship around so that they can go find him. But Calais and Zetes, the Boreads, sons of Boreas, they interpose and, keep the voyage going on. And it's for this reason later on that Heracles kills both of them. But that's in a different myth, obviously. So next, the Argo touches down at an island called Bebrikos. Bebrikos is ruled by a man named Amycus. Amycus is very similar to the bandits that we encountered in the Theseus video because he's really good at boxing, and so what he does is challenge people to a boxing match and just beats them to death. And so the Argonauts show up and he refuses to give them any food or water until they accept a boxing match. So Pollux, who we know is an Argonaut, is also really gifted at boxing, and so he accepts his challenge. Now, Amycus is a lot bigger than Pollux and he's also much younger. The fight begins and Amycus is just making bull rushes at Pollux. Pollux is taking his time, looking for an opening, just trying to, analyze his opponent and get a feel for the way that he fights. Pollux finds an opening and he flattens Amycus's nose. And so then they go on for a while trading blows, but eventually Pollux is able to break his guard and he is letting him have it. Amycus gets desperate. He grabs one of Pollux's arms, and while he's holding him, he tries to hit him, but Pollux is able to dodge it the same way that he's swinging. He hits him with the right hook, followed by an uppercut that is described as being irresistible. and this uppercut shatters his temple and kills him immediately. So when they see their king lying dead, the Bebrikins are not happy and they attack the Argonauts, but the Argonauts are able to hold them off and get away. So they put to sea again, and the next day we come to a place called Salmydessus, where a guy by the name of Phineus rules. Phineus is a seer who was stricken blind by the gods for prophesying the future too accurately. What's going on with Phineus now is whenever he sets out food in front of him, he's constantly harassed by two harpies that fly down, they'll steal food from him, and then they'll kind of soil the rest. And so this is this dude's life now. So Jason and the Argonauts show up. They want advice on how they can get the golden fleece from Colchis. So Phineus is like, hang on, let's pump the brakes a second. I'll tell you what. You help me with my problem, and I'll tell you what you need to do to get to Colchis and get that golden fleece. So Phineus lays out a big feast, and like clockwork, here come the harpies. But those same Boreads that we were talking about before, that Heracles is going to kill in the future, they chase the harpies away, and so Phineus is, freed from their really gross torture. So Phineus tells them everything that they need to know on how to get to Colchis, and that includes navigating these rocks called the Sympaglades that smash together anytime something goes in between them. And he also tells them, and this is very important, that when he gets to Colchis that he should entrust in Aphrodite, the goddess of love. So the Argonauts set off again, and eventually they come to those rocks that Phineus told them about. As instructed, they release a heron, and as it flies in between the rocks smash together, and they just take the last tail feather of the heron. As soon as the rocks smash together, they start rowing for dear life. They get through the rocks, and the rocks come together, and it just takes barely the back end off of their ship. And so then from now on, the Sympaglades never smash together again. So finally, the Argonauts are arriving in Colchis, and up on Olympus, Hera and Athena are plotting on how they can assist Jason in acquiring the golden fleece from Colchis, who is ruled by a man named Aeetes. Now technically Aeetes is a god. He is the son of Helios and Perse, and also father to, you guessed it, Medea. Now, while Hera and Athena are plotting, they decide that they should go to Aphrodite and ask for her help. And so what Aphrodite does is talk to her child, Eros, and convince him to intervene when the time is right to assist Jason in getting the golden fleece from Colchis. So with his first wife, King Aeetes has two daughters, Chalciope and Medea. With his second and current wife, he has one son, Apsyrtus. While Athena and Hera were plotting, Jason and the Argonauts were kind of sitting in the backwaters of Colchis, and their grand plan was to take the fleece by force if they need to. So they show up to the palace, and Jason is talking to Aeetes and, tells him that he'd like to take the golden fleece. And Aeetes just laughs at him, and he tells him that if he doesn't, get the fuck out of there, he's going to cut his tongue out and then cut his head off. But just then, Medea comes out of the palace. And for whatever reason, this makes Aeetes feel a little bad about the way that he is treating the Argonauts. So instead of flat out saying no, he tells them that if they can complete a series of tasks, that he'll go ahead and give them the golden fleece. But these tasks are absolutely impossible. The task that he is to do is to sow the field of Ares that's in Colchis with 4 brazen bulls created by Hephaestus that breathe fire. He's to sow the field with seeds that are left over from Cadmus. So at this point, Jason is stupefied because these are tasks that would have been hard to do for even Heracles, and Jason is just a regular dude. But now Eros intervenes, and he, shoots a shaft into Medea's heart. Now she has fallen in love with Jason and is determined to help him overcome these trials so that she can marry him and, leave Colchis with him. And so Medea creates a salve that Jason is to rub all over his body and his shield and weapons that will temporarily make him fireproof so that he's able to fight the bulls. And she tells him what to do once he's sown the seeds into the field that he's plowed. So much to the surprise of Aeetes, Jason is able to overcome the bulls and yoke them and use them to plow the field. And when he sows the seeds of Cadmus, fully armed warriors burst out of the soil ready to fight him. And so at that point, thanks to Medea's instruction, he throws a rock into the middle of all the warriors that makes them think they're attacking themselves, and so they start fighting one another. And so once they've effectively eliminated each other, he kills the last one. All right, so thanks to Medea, Our boy has done everything that Aedes demanded of him, you know, in exchange for the golden fleece. But of course, Aedes has no real intentions of letting go of that fleece. So Aedes doesn't know that Medea has fallen in love with Jason, or that she's been helping him. And he has confided his entire plan to her that, you know, he's going to go and kill the Argonauts in secret. So Medea takes Jason about 6 miles away from the city to the tree where the fleece is being kept in Colchis, and it is guarded by an absolutely humongous dragon that has thousands of coils and is just like an absolute unit. Medea speaks some incantations over it that, you know, kind of put it into a trance, and then like puts some stuff on its eyelids that eventually like make it sleep. She grabs the fleece, goes back to the palace, takes her little brother Upsirtus, and then they all get on the Argo and prepare to escape. Now, it's not long before Aedes hears about this, and he is after them immediately. Their head start doesn't really mean a whole lot, because like I said, Aedes is a demigod, and he's probably more adept with magic even than Medea herself. And so it's thanks to that magic that he's able to catch up with them in no time. But Medea has foreseen this. On the deck of the Argo, she grabs little Upsirtus and she cuts his throat. And as he lays on the deck bleeding, she starts to cut into his flesh, tearing him piece by piece and throwing his body parts into the sea. Now, in order to give his son a proper burial, Aedes has to stop and get every single one of these body parts that Medea is throwing into the sea. And so it's thanks to this sinister tactic that the Argo is able to get away. But yeah, man, that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, subscribing. I would love you know, any feedback. Let me know what myths you guys might want to see done next. This has been Kid Achilles. See you for the next one. Peace out.